Okay, so this guy right here is really loved right now, but 20 years ago he was hated by pretty much everyone, being blamed for ruining their favorite franchise, and his name is Hayden Christensen, and this is why the Force definitely wasn't with his career. Looking at why Hayden Christensen's career has had so many issues, it's important to know that he wasn't actually the first pick to be Anakin Skywalker because George Lucas originally wanted Leonardo DiCaprio instead. Leonardo DiCaprio was a guy who's supposed to get a big franchise role early on in his career because James Cameron actually made him the first pick to play Spider-Man when James Cameron was set to direct it in 1990. The problem was that Spider-Man movie was in contract hell for a decade, so by the time Sony got the rights and offered it to Leonardo DiCaprio again, he turned it down, recommending Tobey Maguire, and the reason he turned it down was because he studied a lot more about acting, and one person he studied was Mark Hamill. That's because Mark Hamill, after doing Star Wars, was so sick of being known for that role that he was trying to do every role possible to try and get known as being a serious actor, so he went to Broadway to play Amadeus. When they announced they were making an Amadeus movie, Mark Hamill thought he was going to be a shoo-in for the role, but then the director called him up saying, hey, you can do a great performance, but the problem is the entire world sees you as Luke Skywalker, they won't see you as Amadeus. So that was a movie that made $90 million on a budget of $18 million and won 8 Academy Awards that Mark Hamill wasn't allowed to be included in because he was Luke Skywalker. Hayden Christensen got the part after it was reported Leonardo DiCaprio and Christian Bale both turned it down, and he also picked up Star Wars at a really bad point because the franchise was actually hated at the time. That's because even though now there are people like me who really like the Star Wars prequel trilogy because I grew up with it, in fact Episode 1 was the first ever movie I saw in theaters, there were a lot of old school Star Wars fans that really didn't like the movie. They hated Jake Lloyd's acting, they hated Jar Jar, they hated the overuse of CGI, they said it was too political, and even though it was a hit making $924 million on a budget of $125 million, a lot of the old school fans just weren't happy. That's why Episode 2, when Hayden Christensen made his debut, just wasn't as big of a hit, where it made $654 million on a budget of $115 million, and even though that's definitely profitable, it still was nearly a $300 million drop from the first one. The other problem was while the fans weren't happy with the prequel trilogy, Hayden Christensen basically became their whipping boy because Ewan McGregor already had some hit movies at the time like The Island, Samuel L. Jackson was huge, Natalie Portman did a few movies when she was a teenager, Liam Neeson was obviously big, but Hayden Christensen was really the only no-name in the cast. Also, the other issue was that after he did Star Wars, he really wasn't picking good projects. We had another movie called Awake in 2007, and that was profitable, making $33 million on a budget of $9 million, but the movie got awful reviews, and at the Raspberry Awards, it got nominated for Best Screenplay, and also got nominated for Worst Couple for Hayden Christensen and Jessica Alba. And he also just made another bad pick as an actor with Jumper in 2008, where he met his now ex-wife Rachel Bilson, and the problem with that movie is it just underperformed, where it made $225 million on a budget of $85 million, but it only got a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes, so the studio wasn't willing to bank on the sequel. Because things weren't going well and he kept on getting hate from Star Wars fans, he actually decided to quit acting, but it ended up working out for him in the long run because he bought a farm in Canada, has built it up, and he's actually had a lot of success with it. And with that, I'm Charles Pearl. Please subscribe to learn something.